Hello and welcome to the first part of the XPlatformCloudKit video tutorial series. My name is Paul DiCarlo. I'm a technology evangelist for Microsoft in the Houston area. And in this particular segment, we're going to walk through installing and obtaining the prerequisite software required to build the XPlatformCloudKit. So to start off, we're going to head over to where the XPlatformCloudKit project is hosted at github.com/winappkits. Upon going here, we can click on the XPlatformCloudKit project, and this will bring us to a page that has a readme.md at the bottom. Now this is going to list all of the prerequisites that we're going to need to install and has all of the links for both people looking to install as individual developers and for students. I provided Dreamspark links for all of the prerequisite tools. So the first thing we're going to need to do, I'm going to assume that we're starting out completely from scratch, and you can skip this part if you already have a live ID, but we're going to register for a live account. This is going to allow us to authenticate against certain services. We're going to use this to create our store accounts in the Windows 8 and Windows Phone Store should we want to publish our applications created with the XPlatformCloudKit, and it's also going to be used to tie to our Azure account. So I'm just going to go in here and fill in some information about myself. And you'll see here over at the Microsoft account name, it does allow me to choose from a variety of domains. I can actually have my name at outlook.com, hotmail, or live.com. It's free for you to decide which one you want to sign up at. And here I'm actually going to input my phone number. And an alternate email address where I can be contacted. I'm going to uncheck the box for promotional offers. You're free to select that if you wish. And I'm going to click I accept at the bottom here. That's it. Basically, I have now created myself a Microsoft Live ID, and we're going to use this to continue on with the rest of the development. Not only do I get a live ID, but I actually also get access to Outlook.com, which is really cool for email. You can actually manage multiple accounts. I believe you can link up to 50. Really cool for checking out, but not the topic of this video. So I'm going to assume that we already have Windows 8, the operating system, installed. So we're going to start with the first prerequisite, and I'm going to click the Dreamspark link over on the right. This is going to bring us to the Visual Studio 2012 Professional hosted at Dreamspark. You'll notice here it's going to say that I can download, select the product version. I'm going to select the web installer. But before I can do that, it wants me to get verified. So I'm going to click the Get Verified link. Now I'm going to click on the Create an Account button here. And again, I'm going to create a Dreamspark account using my information. And I'm going to click the Continue to Verify link at the bottom here. Now I'm brought to a screen that asks me how I'd like to verify my account. Most people watching this video will probably choose to get verified through their school. And in this case, you can enter in your school name. For example, I can enter in the University of Houston here. And what it's going to do is it's going to ask for you to provide a .edu email address. And when you do that, it'll actually send a verification code over to you. In this instance, since I am not currently enrolled in college, I'm going to enter a verification code that I have. And if anyone has any trouble verifying through their school and needs to obtain a code for access, please feel free to email me at pdecarlo@microsoft.com. That's PDECARLO@microsoft.com. So I've successfully verified, and now what it's going to ask me to do is map my accounts. If I do this, I can actually do Windows 8 and Windows Phone development. So this will actually map to more or less an existing account. So since I haven't created those yet, I don't know that this is going to make sense to do at this time. But the good news is we now have access to Dreamspark, and we can begin downloading software from the site. So I've successfully mapped, and from here I'm going to go back to the link I had before. And you'll notice that the Get Verified link is no longer there. I now have a green download button, and I'm going to choose the web installer and download. I'm going to set to always allow pop-ups for the site. And this is going to ask me to resubmit as a result. No worries. And this is going to ask me to install the Secure Download Manager first. And once I have this, I can download the SDX file that will contain the Visual Studio web installer. So I simply go ahead and install. And then download the SDX file. Very simple. Click Start Download here. And you'll see my download has completed. For the Update 2, and I'm also installing the web installer. Once the web installer is complete, I can click the Launch button. This will launch the Visual Studio 2012 Professional Installer. And we're greeted with the install screen. From here, we're going to want to check the box that says that we agree to the license terms and conditions. And it's optional, but I'm going to join the Customer Experience Improvement Program. And I'm going to click Next. And I'm going to install all of the features, and then select the Install button. You may get prompted by the UAC for admin privileges, so ensure that you have the proper credentials in order to install software on your machine. And this will begin downloading and installing the Visual Studio Professional 2012 software. This can take a little while, so what I'm going to do is take a little break and come back, and we'll continue on with the rest of the prereqs in just a few moments. So hang tight, we'll be back in just a few. Upon successful installation, you should be greeted with the following prompt indicating that setup was successful. We'll go ahead and close the Visual Studio Professional 2012 installation window and close the Secure Download Manager. Head on back over to the XPlatformCloudKit project on GitHub, and we'll go ahead and install Visual Studio Update 3 from Dreamspark. Since we're already logged in, we already have the green download button. I'm going to go ahead and select Multilingual and 32-bit Web Installer. Click the download button. And I'm going to download the SDX file and click Open. This will open the Secure Download Manager, and I'm going to hit the Start Download button. And once our download is completed, we can click the Launch button. This will start the Visual Studio 2012 Update 3 Installation Manager. And similar to before, we're going to click on I agree to license terms and conditions and hit the Install button. Once again, you will want to be sure that you have admin privileges in order to install this update. And again, we're going to wait for the tool to download and apply all updates to the machine. And when this is over, we'll come back and install the final prerequisite. See you guys in a few. And we are back. If everything went well, you should be seeing the Setup Successful screen. After installing this particular update, we do have to reboot the machine, so I'm going to click the Restart Now button, and I will join back up with you in just a few moments. With our machine freshly rebooted, we're going to head back over to the XPlatformCloudKit project page. This is located at github.com/winappkits/xplatformcloudkit. And we're going to prepare to install the final prerequisite. A quick little note, this does require that you have a 64-bit version of the Windows 8 Pro operating system installed. If you do not have the 64-bit machine installed, it is possible that you can execute this in a virtual machine designated to run as 64-bit. However, for the purposes of this video, we're going to assume that you have the 64-bit operating system installed. Now, since we rebooted, we're going to have to head back over to Dreamspark, and we're going to have to re-sign in. So I'm going to select Students from the list of options up at the top. And then I'm going to select Sign In over in the upper right. And we'll use the live ID that we created earlier. Now that we're properly signed in, we can go back over to the GitHub page and click the Dreamspark link for the Windows Phone 8 SDK. And from the drop-down here in the middle of the page, you'll see an option to select a product version. We'll choose 64-bit web installer. And then underneath, there's a button, Download Windows Phone SDK. We'll go ahead and click that. And again, we're going to download the SDX file and click Open. So we'll launch the Secure Download Manager. I'm going to click Start Download for the 64-bit web installer of the Windows Phone 8 SDK. And when this completes, we'll go ahead and click the green Launch button. This will start the Windows Phone SDK Installer Manager. And just like before, I'm going to agree to the license terms and conditions. I've optionally chosen to join the Customer Experience Improvement Program. And then we'll go ahead and click the Install button at the bottom of the installer. Again, this will require admin privileges to install the SDK to your machine, so make sure that you have those privileges. And we're going to, once again, wait for this to acquire all of the tools and install them to our machine. When this is done, we'll come back and verify that everything installed properly by attempting to open the XPlatformCloudKit solution. When the Windows Phone SDK is done installing, we'll then be prompted to reboot the machine one more time. It does give us a few notes to confirm that Hyper-V is turned on and also that the current user has been added to the Hyper-V administrators group. For now, you can just kind of ignore those because you'll get prompted for that anyway when you build the project. So I'm going to go ahead and restart, and we'll come right back and test out the XPlatformCloudKit solution to make sure that everything installed properly and that we can build the projects. Alright, with our machine freshly rebooted, we're going to head back over to the GitHub project page for XPlatformCloudKit. This is located at github.com/winappkits/XPlatformCloudKit. And we're going to want to download the project as a zip file. So we'll go down here to the bottom right where it says download zip. Click that, and this will begin to transfer. Very important, you do want to save this to your desktop, preferably. Anywhere is really fine, but you do want to save the file. Do not open it because we're going to have to do another step once it's complete. So I'm going to save the XPlatformCloudKit master to my desktop, and we will wait for that download to complete. Now we're ready, so I'm going to minimize my browser window. And this step is very important. Wherever we downloaded the zip file to, go ahead and right-click the zip file, select Properties, and click Unblock. This is because the project contains some DLLs that were built on another machine, and Windows will not let you use DLLs that are built on other machines and projects unless you unblock them. So if we unblock the zip, this will unblock everything inside. Then we'll go ahead and open this, and we can extract this back to our desktop. Now that we have the XPlatformCloudKit extracted to our desktop, we can go ahead and open the project. Inside, you'll find a PowerPoint at the root directory. You can go ahead and open this if you like. This will give you a walkthrough on how to continue on with building applications with the XPlatformCloudKit. So we'll just leave that open and go ahead and open the XPlatformCloudKit folder. And down at the bottom is an SLN file. And since we've just installed Visual Studio, never ran it before, there's no icon on it. So we're going to double click it to execute, and it will ask us, how do you want to open the type of file? Make sure you select Visual Studio 2012. This particular solution will not work currently with Visual Studio 2013, so it's very imperative that you use Visual Studio 2012. And because we've launched Visual Studio for the very first time, it's going to ask us to choose our default environment settings. I'm going to select Visual C# development settings. That's probably what most people will use. If you're a JavaScript developer, perhaps you may want to choose the JavaScript for Windows 8 apps. And then click the Start Visual Studio button down at the bottom. This will then begin loading the initial user settings, and this process can take a little bit. So we'll just hold tight here. And Visual Studio begins to load up, and it will inform us that one of the projects in the solution is unsupported. There's no cause for alarm for this. This is pointing out that the Droid project, the Android project that that the XPlatformCloudKit can build, does not have the proper project type to be supported. So we're just going to go ahead and click OK. This will work if you have a Xamarin Business license installed. However, most people, I'm going to assume, do not have Xamarin tools installed at this time. Next, when it attempts to load the Windows 8 application, it's going to ask us for a developer license. You can just go ahead and click the I agree button and provide the credentials from the live account we created earlier. And after providing those credentials, it just gives us a developer license. We can go ahead and click Close. And the solution will now begin preparing to open. You'll notice the migration report informs us that all of the projects successfully were migrated with the exception of the Droid project. This is to be expected, so we'll go ahead and click Close on the migration report window. And we'll start out by attempting to build the Phone 8 project, which should be selected by default. I'm going to choose to deploy this to the WXGA emulator. We're also prompted to download and install product documentation. I'm going to choose no at this time, but if you do want to install the documentation for Visual Studio, you can go ahead and select yes on that message prompt. You may be prompted to asked to add your user to the Hyper-V administrator group. If it asks you that, go ahead and click yes. And we're greeted by the Phone OS, and this is going to now begin deploying the phone portion of the XPlatformCloudKit to the device emulator. Just simply wait for it to complete that process, and we'll see the app start up. And if everything went well, you should see My Application up in the upper left corner, and it will begin attempting to load some data from a few web sources that the solution is configured to draw from by default. And if everything went well, you should see some data in your application. In this particular case, it's showing me the Avengers and some Microsoft RSS feeds. So this is good news. This means we're able to successfully build the Windows Phone project. I'm going to hit stop up at the top, and now we're going to test the Windows 8 solution, or project file, rather. We can right-click on XPlatformCloudKit.win8 and select Set as Startup Project, and then click to deploy to the local machine. And if all goes well, we should see some data begin to populate this application. The same data that we saw on the phone app. So congratulations, if you've made it this far, you are able to successfully build and run the XPlatformCloudKit solution. And I encourage you to Come back and watch the next part of this video series where we're going to go into how to customize this template to provide your own data into the application and build your own apps, which can range from a variety of different uses depending on how creative you are. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at pdecarlo@microsoft.com. Again, that's PDECARLO@microsoft.com. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in future segments of the XPlatformCloudKit video tutorial series.